Welcome back to Fund Hub Radio, the go-to podcast for all things fundraising, community building, and making a difference. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today we've got an episode that's about an exciting new partnership we are starting with Unplug Collaborative. Today, I'm joined with Wendy Tybus, Get Movin founder and president, as well as Kim Cavallo, founder and executive director at Unplug Collaborative. This episode is packed with insights on how this partnership came to be, the vision behind Unplug-A-Thons, and how you, our listeners, can get involved in hosting your own event. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into this exciting journey of making a screen-free difference, one Unplug-A-Thon at a time.
That's right, Lindsay. We're joining forces with an incredible organization that's been leading the charge in digital wellness and meaningful screen-free engagement. Kim, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks so much, Wendy. Thanks, Lindsay.
Of course. We are super excited here today to get learning a little bit more about this partnership that we're going to be having with Unplug Collaborative. Kim, I wanted to start. Could you give us a brief overview of the Unplug Collaborative organization and the Global Day of Unplugging?
Sure. So Global Day of Unplugging actually started, it was originally called National Day of Unplugging, and it was way back in 2009 before any of us had any idea how powerful these mobile devices were going to be. And it started just as a group of people in the tech business having device-free dinners in the San Francisco area, and it just grew and grew. And in 2020, I had the opportunity to take over the campaign, and we formed Unplug Collaborative, which is with my co-founder, Claudia Erickson. And the two of us had been in the digital well-being space and the kind of event planning space. And so we wanted to create a resource center for people that are looking to plan unplugged events, start unplugged programs, and anything that centers around digital well-being. And so we have 200 plus ideas on our website. We have a lot of connections to research and educators that are working on this, and hundreds of schools and businesses and individuals around the world on Global Day of Unplugging, which is always the first weekend of March. It's been that way since 2009. We changed it from national to global because there are so many people all over the world that have reached out to us. And if you think of it like Earth Day, it's really about consciousness around your relationship with technology, just like Earth Day is about the consciousness around your relationship with the environment. And people around Earth Day start thinking about, oh, maybe I'm not recycling enough, or maybe I can reduce my, usage of electricity or water. And this is true for Global Day of Unplugging. So some people feel like, oh, wow, I've got it on Global Day of Unplugging. I have to, get rid of all my devices for 24 hours. And that's not true. It's really just if you've had a conversation about your relationship with technology, or you're even thinking about it yourself, you've participated in Global Day of Unplugging.
Yeah, that's super, super interesting and a great concept that I think, as people start to get younger, it's important that we start introducing these concepts to not just adults, but children as well.
Yeah.
So Wendy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired the partnership between Unplug Collaborative and Get Movin fundraising, and how do you see those missions aligning together?
Sure. So Kim reached out and we had a conversation that went really well. Kim and I are both on the same page, and that is that we are both trying to make our youth or help our youth stay healthy. And with the device being such a broad part of our lives now, there's a little bit of a disconnect, I feel, with real life, if you will, the way we grew up as children. We didn't have a device. We went outside and played. We learned. We had imagination. And, not all kids are experiencing a lack of that, but some are. And to promote, just getting away from the device and doing something that's real life is just fantastic to me. You're not, behind a video game or watching a show. I also assimilate it to a lot like those of us in the older generation. We were pushed outside to play to get away from the TV. And then came the computer, and now it's a handheld device that everybody just has in front of them all the time. So it's more important than ever to create an environment for kids that's healthy and more well-rounded when it comes to the device.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that Get Movin', as far as our mission goes, our healthy alternatives to fundraising, it just kind of makes sense. I mean, I know when you think of healthy, you might sometimes think about like being physical and stuff like that and doing physical activities, but simply like unplugging for your mental health also is super, super important. So I think those missions aligning is just kind of a no-brainer for a partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all about healthy children, and that's right.
So, Kim, in what ways do you think that Unplug-A-Thons can positively impact students, families, and communities?
Well, I think similar to, by the way, I've known about Get Movin' for a while now, and it's been on my radar. And I was just so thrilled to be connected to Wendy and to be able to have the opportunity to have this partnership. The idea, I was a parent org president back in the day when my kids were younger, and we were always scrambling for ideas on how to fundraise. And the concept of attaching it to healthy behaviors and habits that you can instill in the kids at the same time that you're fundraising. I mean, it's the ultimate multitasking opportunity. And so I think that the Unplug-A-Thons, like a jog-a-thon or a read-a-thon, is just a way to get, the community that wants to support the school. It gives them the opportunity to, donate. And at the same time, the families get to reestablish maybe new connections to, hobbies or activities, or, so that's specifically with Unplug-A-Thons, is that it doesn't have to be you unplug and do one thing. There's a variety of things. And I think you touched on it a little bit in the beginning about adults versus youth in this. We're all struggling with this, families and parents especially. I mean, that's one of our hugest inbound inquiries on our site, are parents that are like, help me, or teachers too. And so these, an Unplug-A-Thon, I think, is a way to just bring about almost a competition, in a sense, to make it so that kids are like, well, I read 3 books this last week, in actual books that I got from the library, or I colored, or my parents and I went for a hike. That it's kind of like we're shifting the what's cool on the playground kind of thing, instead of the how many things you captured in your video game, I guess.
Right. Exactly. That totally makes sense. So I think a lot of our listeners are kind of, they know about what an a-thon style an event is, but for those of the people that don't know what that kind of fundraising looks like, because, we have listeners and viewers from all over different schools across the country and the world as well. How do you envision schools, teams, and other organizations would facilitate an Unplug-A-Thon? And what do you think that looks like for those that might not know exactly what that is?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Well, I think obviously to be able to tap into the Get Movin' resources is an important first step. Yeah. You want to be able to get that going so that they can have access to the platform and all of that. And then from there, Unplug Collaborative, we have resources. We have a community membership and an educator membership where people can come and teachers can come and talk to us. We've had in the past, we've partnered with actually school students who wanted to bring an Unplug-A-Thon to their school. And they've done it in a variety of ways. We've never really done it with, that's why we're so excited about this partnership, because we've really never done it with like monetary fundraising. We've had things in the past that have been really successful with actually socks. We have this very generous donor that donates socks to an organization that gives them out to people in homeless shelters. And so we've had schools do Unplug-A-Thons that are centered around raising, like how many minutes you unplug is how many socks you
Got it. Yeah.
Donate. And so we've had, like an 8th grader basically took charge, and she planned a whole event, and she made it so that kids were playing board games on campus, and they brought puppies to campus, and then they had like a meter on campus that was like, how many minutes have we unplugged, and how does that correlate to socks?
Right.
And so this is a very similar thing. Obviously, if you're raising money, that how many minutes how does that relate to, how much money we're raising?
Yes, absolutely. And then Wendy, what about from your side? Like, how do you envision what a thon style fundraiser would look like?
So for unplugging, I look at it from a standpoint where rather than obviously doing a read-a-thon with reading books or a walk-a-thon fun run where you're doing physical fitness, driven activity, with an unplug-a-thon, you would be able to log things within your profile of minutes of unplugging, if you will, as opposed to reading minutes. And then maybe even log the things that you're doing while you're unplugged so that you have kind of a list of accomplishments during the event. So most, a-thon style events go over a couple of week period where with a read-a-thon especially, where kids read books, and then at the end of the fundraiser and it's over, they've raised money for the number of books that they've read and gotten the donations. It'd be the same thing, only the kids, instead of reading books, are unplugging, tracking their minutes, and then baking a cake or sewing a sweater or going on a bike ride or a family thing, like Kim mentioned, getting the whole family involved. Maybe they go to the water park or they go on a walk, whatever it is. It can be something little or it can be something grand. It's just getting rid of the device and making time for real life.
So Wendy, now that you just mentioned all of that, what do you think sets Unplug-A-Thons apart from other fundraising events, particularly in the context of like promoting wellness?
Well, I mean, what could be more healthier than getting away from a device and doing something fun and real that you may have never done before and could be your favorite thing and could actually lead you to your career of life? So, I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as you put down the device, you bake a cake, and now you want to be a baker, or whatever it is. Maybe it's, somebody picking up a hammer and, building a doghouse and realizing they would like to be a builder or use their imagination for script writing or something. It's endless, as we know, as humans. Imagination and using your hands and doing things is really what life's about. It's not being behind a screen.
Right. Absolutely. That totally makes sense. Kim, you mentioned that that really great example about that 8th grader that stepped onto campus and really took initiative with the whole socks fundraiser. Do you have any other inspiring examples or success stories from previous unplug events that you could share with our listeners similar to that one?
Yeah, that we've had a couple of middle schools that have done the same sock situation. And they actually were able to, and we helped facilitate this, get a sponsorship from a blue light glasses company to get some donated prizes. So that gave a little more incentive for people. And that's really what we're here to do, is kind of offer that brainstorming. Yes, you've got, you're in very good hands with Get Movin for the platform and the fundraising and all of those things. But if you want extra ideas or connections to things that we do at other schools in terms of on the weekend of Global Day of Unplugging, we are able to get, access to those things. And so, some other schools, we've had elementary schools where they've done, kind of live events, and then they'll do kind of not a yoga-thon, but they'll say, okay, we're unplugging, and they've got the whole kind of campus. I have a picture of it. There's actually like this schoolyard with all these kids and parents doing yoga together on mats. And it was just a really cool thing to see. They also did rock painting that day. And so it's a fun thing to do. And that's the kind of thing that if someone says, okay, I want to do an Unplug-A-Thon, they sign up and then they get directed to us, we can help brainstorm, since we have this huge catalog of ideas that other schools have done over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll leave that as a teaser so that other schools can definitely reach out to you guys and get more of some of those awesome ideas. So I know we've kind of heard from Kim, the process that she's kind of thinking for organizing an Unplug-A-Thon. So Wendy, I'd like to hear from you. Could you walk us through the process of organizing what an Unplug-A-Thon might look like and what kind of support participants can expect from Get Movin' side?
Absolutely. So the first thing, obviously, is to take an online tour. If you've never been exposed to our services, is to take an online tour of Fund Hub, which is our software platform that enables you to run a fundraiser. And of course, you can run any type of fundraiser, but Unplug-A-Thons are all the rage right now. So that's where we're headed. And once that happens, you select an Unplug event as your event type. And from there, a personal event coach will not only help you understand the software, but also help you understand the Unplug concept, and then help you tailor your event to your goals and your incentives and the things that you want to bring in to incentivize students and raise the appropriate donations for your goal. And then from there, if you need additional ideas, we'll send you to the Unplug Collaborative website and Kim for all those resources if you're not getting enough from our coaches. Our coaches are 100% trained on the Unplug Collaborative initiative. The reason we're doing this partnership, and they will help you every step of the way. But if you need additional resources, that's where Unplug Collaborative will come in. But we are the experts at raising the money, so we can help turn your Unplug event into a fundraiser, and that's where we come in and help. And Kim can give you the backstory on how she got to us.
Yeah, sounds good. That sounds like a great time now.
Yeah, I actually saw a booth at I'm not even sure what's it called. It's like a
PTO Today.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I was dropping off. We have these cute smartphone knapsacks that we give to the schools, and I was dropping it off to someone at a booth that had requested them, and I came by and I was like, "What is Get Movin'? That looks amazing." I mean, the logo and I went digging and reached out through a contact form, and it was great because I was able to get connected to someone on the sales team who then put me in connection with Wendy.
That's awesome. That's really, really amazing. I love that, our awareness from those different types of shows is, not only working with potential clients and stuff, but also, partnerships like this. It's a really great opportunity to just expand the network. So, Kim, I want to go back to you for a second. How do you measure the success of an Unplug-A-Thon or of a global day of unplugging, both in terms of fundraising, but also the broader goal of encouraging digital awareness or digital wellness?
Yeah, that's such an important question because, we want to be able to measure the impact of how many people participate. And it's funny because, after Global Day of Unplugging, like I said, is always the first weekend of March, we get tagged and we had no idea that people were planning things, and it could be like Hilton hotels or a chain of restaurants, and so it's almost like Christmas for us because we, when the weekend's over, we're like, wow, we had no idea. But what we hope that people do is we have on our website a place where you can actually put your event on our map. And it can be completely private, by the way. So it doesn't need to say an address or any kind of information like that. But so, for example, if a school is participating, and especially if they're doing an Unplug-A-Thon, they can put themselves on the map. And then people see that, in Chicago, there's schools doing Unplug-A-Thons, and it can actually link back to the school's website or their fundraising page. And it's just a really great way to kind of broaden awareness around this concept that, we try to let people lead by example.
Right.
And that's the same with parents with their children or teachers with their students. And it's the same for us. We just have this campaign that's been growing and growing. And it just happens that people say, how do I get involved? And then they'll go to our website and they're like, wow, look at that map with all those, all those little red flags on it. So that's one way we measure. The other way we measure is ironically on social media by tags and hashtags.
Yes.
I always find that so funny because we're trying to get people off of social media.
Right.
But we do have to, and that's a really important point. And I think it's an important point for Get Movin' as well. And I know this is true for what you guys do. There's no shame in this. Like the last thing parents need is to feel that they're doing something wrong. And that's not the case. This is only about awareness. There's no shame in this. If you're a family that really embraces technology and what you love to do is watch movies together, and we're just really trying to encourage people to, okay, so let's say you're watching a movie, right? Let's maybe put the devices, you're having a family movie night. A lot of the time, family movie night means people are sitting there with their devices watching their little screen while they're watching the big screen. So have a movie night with it. Like there's not a right way or a wrong way. We really look at it like all the other kind of holidays that we have, where it's Christmas. Some people do Christmas dinner. Some people do Christmas morning, or New Year's. And talking about New Year's, we always like to think that Global Day of Unplugging is the time when people make resolutions about their habits going forward and reflect on the way that they've been interacting with technology in the previous year. So yeah, it is hard to measure, to be honest. It's because, we're putting out this awareness campaign, and we get, we get media attention and we get, there's a lot of kind of hype around it. And then when it's over, it's like, well, who did this? And we have our way of measuring it, but we not necessarily always capture everyone. But that's actually another reason why I'm so thrilled about this partnership, because as more and more Unplug-A-Thons start happening in the Get Movin' space, we'll be able to count, more people and be able to say, wow, that was our impact. And it helps because we're really a volunteer-run organization. We're a nonprofit organization, and the people on the team are doing this out of passion. And so to feel the impact is super important.
Yes, I think that you touched on some really great points there. Number one, the shame thing. I think it's inevitable for everybody to know that technology isn't going anywhere. So it's just about being more mindful. I mean, they say everything in moderation is good. So as long as, it's okay if you're on your device, during your Unplug-A-Thon or whatever it may be, but knowing that you're consciously able to put that down, go do some other activities that don't require your device, and then, logging that time that you're doing that. So I think that, it's good to make that point that, hey, we're not trying to say, hey, put your phone away for 2 weeks during our fundraiser and never look at it again. It's just about being mindful and knowing those, limits, really, So really, really great points there.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. For sure.
Kind of touched on something with the idea of food, right? So we always try to tell our students or our children about, good nutrition and healthy physical habits. And with digital devices, I'm excited because I feel like the conversations are starting to lead to, where is that stomach ache? Where's that pain point?
Yes.
What was happening? Are your eyes feeling dry? Is your back starting to hurt? Just being able to say, okay, yeah. So if you're going to eat a dozen donuts, you're probably going to throw up. That's a very clear pain point. But with digital devices, we don't always know, and it's this vicious cycle of depression, and that's a huge issue today is youth mental health.
Absolutely.
So I think this idea of these conversations happening at the school level within families is so important.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great way to put it, for sure. So Wendy, I wanted to ask you, what would you say are your long-term visions for this partnership, and how do you see Unplug-A-Thons evolving in the future?
Well, number one, to the point earlier, we will be able to supply a lot of data. We'll be able to know how many schools selected Unplug events, and then we'll be able to know how many students participated and how many students' minutes were logged. Yeah. So all of that data will be exposed to Unplug Collaborative and to the public if they need it. And we hope to build on that year over year over year. This issue, if you will, is not going away. And it's something that we want to bring to the forefront, bring to the attention so people are aware and so people will go ahead and act on it and be a participant of it. I see it as being a great way to work with middle schools. Like Kim said earlier, middle schools would benefit from this type of program the most, I think. Mm-hmm. And, I think that it's okay to strike that balance like we talked about. You put your phone in your unplugged knapsack and zip it up. Go ahead and, go on your bike ride or bake your cake or do whatever you want during your unplugged time to enjoy the earth around you and the experiences that you're putting in front of yourself. And then maybe you can take a picture of your cake and share that with your friends. But say, I baked this cake while I was unplugged. I don't know.
You have it spot on. I mean, this is exactly what is the campaign is all about.
We're just trying to, get the experiences out there and have healthy children that because when you accomplish something, you're empowered. Mm-hmm. And you can accomplish things with your device, but you can't accomplish creativity. You can't accomplish a breath of fresh air on a ride and see a view or a bird that you've never seen before. That's what life's about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they talk about FOMO and JOMO, right? There's the fear of missing out. And we've kind of turned that on its head to say the fear of missing out on real life. You're worried about missing out because you're comparing yourself on social media. What about what's right in front of you? Maybe your little brother. I mean, we volunteer once a year at a winter carnival that's for people living in homeless shelters in the New York area through that sock partnership with Knock Knock Give a Sock. And one of the activities we do, which is an activity that schools can do on their campuses, are these smartphone knapsacks decorating. And it comes with a card that the schools can download and use. And each card is a gift card that comes with the knapsack. So if you're, a third grader and you don't have your own device, you can give that and gift that to somebody in your family. And what we found at this event is we're coloring with all these, third, fourth graders and noticing that a lot of them are writing a note and giving this to their older brother and sister or their older cousin. And they're saying in the card, I wish I could play, and it's not, again, no shame, but the card basically says, like, if you put this device in this knapsack, it'll have magic powers. And then it says, we can spend more time together, flip over the card so you can see the things that I want to do with you. And it's like, play hopscotch, and then in talking to these kids and helping them kind of reflect about this while this activity is going on, it's like, I used to play with my brother all the time, but now he's, always playing video games and so, I just think that that's a great opportunity again for these conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of on that topic, Kim, we're wrapping up here. We're getting towards the end, but I would like to know what advice would you give to someone who's considering maybe organizing an event like this? We're honoring, the Global Day of Unplugging or something along those lines.
I mean, I would say, and I know this is true for Get Movin', is gather your the leaders, gather the tippers, gather the people in the community who are going to be able to spread the word, educate them first about what an Unplug-A-Thon is all about and what Global Day of Unplugging is all about. But by the way, we say Global Day of Unplugging, it's the first weekend of March, but this kind of Unplug-A-Thon obviously is for all year round. It's especially interesting for the summertime when there's a lot of pressure on parents to find other things to do. So I think it's just if you can get your kind of your leaders in your group together that understand this concept. And maybe there's some of them that already exist on in the parent network or the educator network, and then go out from there and spread the word.
That's great advice. Wendy, did you have anything you wanted to add on to that?
I would just say that I think that this has become something that a lot of people are concerned with, and they don't even understand that there is an unplugged event.
Yes.
Day, weekend, initiative. So I think that it's going to give a lot more ease to parents. The more we can spread the word on it, it's just going to expose it more and more and give people, well, yeah, I want my child to unplug. I need ideas. I need the support. And they're thinking it, but they don't necessarily know how to do it. And I think that this partnership and coaching schools on how to do them will definitely bring more awareness on a wider scale.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. I think that, combining the efficiency of the Fund Hub platform and the valuable resources and mission of Unplug Collaborative, we'll be able to empower schools, teams, and organizations all across the country to host fundraisers that can not only be successful, but also meaningful, just, as far as this initiative goes. So as we wrap up, I think if we need to answer one very, very important question, and I want to hear from each one of you. And that is, if each of you could fully unplug for a day, what would each of you do instead of being on a screen? We'll start with Kim.
Okay. Well, I actually am a longtime yoga practitioner, so I would certainly include a couple of hours of yoga. Yes. I would find maybe a teacher that's teaching something, and I would get to go to that, or just do it on my own.
Yeah.
Spend quality time, plan some kind of meal with family and friends. Maybe I'd have breakfast with my adult sons, and then, have a lunch with just make sure that I'm catching all the people. So, because that's the hardest part about all this, is to, stay in touch with people without it only being texting and all of that. So have some real FaceTime with people. And probably go on some kind of walk or hike.
Those are great ones. Wendy, how about you?
Just one day, I'd have to throw golf in there for sure. 9 holes is fine. I love golf. It's one of my biggest passions. Of course, family. I would want to sit down and share and break bread with family and have great conversation. I would love to do something that I've never done before, to experience something new. I love trying new things. I love trying new foods. I love to travel. So if I could, go on a tour somewhere, I would love to do that. And I also just, I might do some gardening. I love flowers and swimming. So just all the things I love to do.
Getting outside, getting that fresh air. I think that would be maybe what I would do too. I love going out on a boat on the lake, or swimming as well is a good one for me. Also just getting out there and maybe even doing some things I haven't done in a while, like getting some friends together to do some volleyball or something. I don't know, just things that, we don't have time to do because, we're all busy with our lives and working. So being able to stop and have some meaningful time with the people that you love, as well as, just logging off those devices and spending some time with people face to face, is just a really great way to, I think, unplug, and also just raise money through Fund Hub and Get Movin fundraising, as well as, have those initiatives with Unplug Collaborative. So with all of that said, I think we're going to wrap up here today. I want to thank each of you for being here today and, sharing what Unplug Collaborative and Get Movin fundraising have together. So with that, I will see all of you awesome viewers and listeners on the next episode of Fund Hub Radio, and everybody have a great day. See ya.